What is going on, all you wonderful A-plusers out there? It is I, Stewart, here once again to give you guys another Stargirl review. But this time, guys, we are going to be talking about the Season 1 finale. And yes, I did say we, because joining me today, we got my friend Adam Perez. How is it going?
Going good, man. Going good. Thank you for having me, Stuart. I appreciate it, man.
Oh, no problem, dude. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm super excited to talk about this season finale with you because, you know, it definitely to me wasn't perfect, and we'll definitely get into that, but it was definitely a very satisfying conclusion to this story that's been building up for 12 episodes, and seeing how it all finally kind of comes to an end here. I think it was a great ending, and then not to mention, I love that there's a few little sprinkles of elements that really set up for season 2. So I think anyone who's been a fan of the show so far, you know, I think you're definitely going to love what's going to be coming in season 2, I believe.
Yeah, I thought the payoff for this season was fantastic. I thought this really felt like just an epic episode. Like everything that we've been watching all season long has kind of been building up to this moment. And I thought the payoff for some of these characters did a really fantastic job. So the idea that they were able to not only wrap it up beautifully, but also give you hints, like you mentioned, about what's coming in the future for season 2. Really exciting stuff. A little drawn out for me in regards to the episode with all the like false endings and the let's see what else kind of epilogue stuff. I felt like I was watching Lord of the Rings with like 13 endings. But at the end of the day, you do see that they have a path for season 2. And I really enjoyed it. Man.
Mm-hmm. First, we got to talk about this opening scene here. Even though like it seemingly seems kind of like unrelated, like for the rest of the episode, we still got to talk about it because there's definitely, I kind of brought this up before. It felt like they were really kind of setting up a lot of the kids to be like future villains in season 2. One of those kids, and I cannot remember the name, but he is the what was that?
I can't remember his name either.
We'll just call him Turbo.
Tuba Turd.
Tuba Turd. Yeah, Tuba Turd. We'll just call him that for now. You know, we got one thing I thought was, you know, really funny and I kind of brought this up in my previous review is, I should have silenced my phone. That is my bad. Is kind of the hypocrisy that comes from that kid's mom. You know, she's, you know, and she's definitely right when she completely judges like the other two parents, saying you guys are totally unfit to be parents. You know, your kids are going to turn out terrible. And then we look at like her kid too, and we're like, yeah, that's a bit hypocritical for you to say when you're encouraging your kid to, you know, straight up bash another kid's skull. And essentially, like, obviously I'm all for teaching kids to stand up to bullies. I think that's impossible. That's important, but there's a bit of a limit right there. And I think that guy definitely crossed the line when you kind of see like the blood stain, you know, all on his tuba, and you just see like the guy like holding his head like kind of dizzy right there. And, you know, it kind of reminded me. So, there was like this there was like this Adam Sandler movie. I think it was called Anger Management. Not the best movie, yeah. But yeah. There was a line that it kind of reminded me of. And you know, you look at Sportsmaster and Tigress's daughter, and whenever she's angry, she will let you know that she's pissed off. She will take it out on you, you know, all the time. But then there's always kind of that anger being built up type of person where it's like they don't quite show it until that moment when they completely snap. And when that moment happens, you'll definitely know when it's there. And that's what the other kid kind of reminds me of, the kid that we see in the beginning of this episode. So
yeah, kind of like mother, like son.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll definitely be interesting to see where that all kind of plays out in season 2 later on. I definitely look forward to seeing like kind of these characters that we've never seen together. Now, hopefully, you know, we get to see them kind of being forced to work together later on in the future.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious as to what this kid's name is going to be, if he's even going to pick up like a moniker or follow in his mother's footsteps. I mean, listen, if you ask me, the bully had it coming, man. But I will be curious. You make up a good point here. Now that we have seen some of the ISA characters sort of departing from this season, it will be interesting to see who winds up taking their place, right? We still have Cameron, Icicle's son, that's still hanging about. We don't know what his future certainly holds, but who knows? Maybe we get a Cameron and Tuba Turd team up for season 2. We'll see what happens.
Oh yeah, more than likely, you know, if I had to do my own predictions, probably you'll see him, or you know, maybe with the help of Shiv, because we do see her at the end of the episode going through some old memorabilia from the Injustice Society. You know, maybe he does take up the identity as the Fiddler. Is my assumption, anyways.
Oh, that'd be a good choice. That'd be a good choice. Picking up another instrument, you know, following his mom's footsteps, possibly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so then we cut to the next scene And let me tell you, dude, I don't know if it was just me, but right off the bat, man, they really pull at the heartstrings because you got Pat, attacking Courtney. And then for the first time in the entire series, you have that moment where Courtney says, "No, Pat, it's me, your daughter." And, that moment of hesitation from him right there, I felt something right off the bat, like not even exaggerating there. I'm like, oh, that's so sweet. Like for me personally.
I was just blindsided, like you said. I mean, I'm watching this thing like 5 minutes in. I'm already getting like my eyes are watering. I'm like, what is going on here? Like you can't come out the gate swinging with all this emotion in this season. But I tell you, man, they I think that just goes to show you that they've done such a really good job when it comes to just the Courtney and Pat relationship. For it again, when we talked about the idea of payoffs, just the payoff for that particular moment, seeing just the ups and downs that these two characters have been through, the scoldings that Pat has had to kind of give and shake Courtney a little bit for her to kind of understand, to see that character growth between these two characters. I thought Breck delivered that daughter line just absolutely perfectly. And then to see Luke Wilson as Pat here trying to overcome sort of that mind control stuff. Really great win, honestly. And I thought the payoff was great for those two. But yeah, coming out the gate swinging with those emotional heartstring pulls, man.
Oh yeah, definitely. It was also kind of cool because we get a little more from Beth and then the gambler dynamic. I love it when you have like the two of them essentially trying to hack each other over and over. And what's so cool is that it did seem like for a good majority of earlier in the season, it does seem like Beth heavily relied on the goggles. Like a lot of the brilliance that she would come up with, it didn't really feel like it came from her. It felt like it just came from the goggles and her just explaining what the goggles have been saying. But for this episode, it definitely feels like for the first time, she's using that technology, but she's also bringing in her own ideas along with it. So one thing that was so cool, I thought, is when they realize, oh wait, the villains aren't being affected by this. They must have some sort of device to prevent them. Can we possibly recreate that? That was her idea. And then again, like the idea of, oh, but we can't hack into a system yet. We have to have some sort of a way to spread him thin, so he's forced to guard too many different security protocols at once, and he can't focus on too many things. Let's attack him where it hurts most, his money. So that idea of like going into his accounts and then actually where she ends up putting that money, like not just throwing it away, but like donating it to like all these important things. That was really brilliant on her end as well. So I do really like that we really see her kind of evolve to the point where she doesn't necessarily have to rely on Chuck anymore, but she does know how to use him to her advantage, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, I really agree, man. I thought they did a really good job with her in regards to just her growth. And you're right, it is one of those things where when she does get the goggles at first, you really just hear Chuck just kind of spewing out all this sort of information and writing, giving them ideas and stuff. And it really feels like it's the goggles that are kind of doing all the work. So you're absolutely right. The fact that it's Beth that winds up coming up with the sort of the master plan to kind of distract the gambler, I thought was really brilliant. And for me, like when I watch scenes like that for Angelica Washington, who plays Beth, like for me, it's just amazing to see her really working. I don't want to say on set by herself. I mean, because Barbara was certainly right over there, but just the idea of her having to do all these monologues and like acting towards her goggles when there's nobody really there. Like I'm pretty sure there's somebody off screen that's maybe telling her some of the lines and things like that, bouncing off the Chuck lines for her. But to be able to just kind of act like that and to make the goggles feel like they're genuinely one of her best friends and stuff and just their connection, I think Angelica Washington is just amazing when it comes to her acting. But, I will say this, Stewart, let me throw this out to you though real quick. While I love the idea by Beth here when it comes to the gambler to go ahead and mess around with his money, for me, it feels a little bit out of character for the gambler. Like it's for somebody that's such a master at technology and security and hacking. Like I would think that if you're going to protect anything of your own, it would be your own money. Like they can't get into the signal that you set up, but they can get into the money of your bank account that you set up. I would just think that the gambler would be a little bit smarter than that. That's all I'm saying.
I think it was less about that, more of there's only so much you can do with already set up security protocols. I think the whole thing of having him on the computer is to constantly be updating those security protocols. And the problem is when you're attacking so many different accounts of his at once, there's only so many that he can protect at once, even like no matter how much of a good hacker you are. So I think that's what it was really going on, is that he had all these security protocols, but when you have a really smart hacker breaking into those, you have to constantly on the spot be updating it. At least I think that's what they were going for.
Yeah, and you might be right, because my thing was that it felt very much like his bank account was just not protected at all. And I'm like, how are you a master at hacking and you don't have protocols guarding your own money? You know what I mean? But you're absolutely right. It could be the case that while they were also trying to break down in order to kind of get into his bank account also. But yeah, that's just how I looked at it, though.
It was also, looking at the gambler in that scene kind of gave me the vibe of him as a person, never really being fully down for Project New America. It seemed like he was a lot more just in it because he knew, like, in the long run, he wants to be on the winning side, and he knows that there's more profit in that, because as soon as she attacks his other accounts, it seems like that's kind of his bigger priority, is to protect those essentially, and that's why she's able to easily hack the whatever security protocol it is that essentially prevents the bad guys from being affected. So I did think that was kind of interesting, and it definitely gives you a lot more perspective on kind of the ISA as like a whole. Like, they don't necessarily all have the same ideal mindset. You feel like Icicle is more than likely just kind of using these guys for their skills and knowing exactly how to manipulate them in whatever ways he's trying to do.
Yeah, you're right. It definitely feels like they're all approaching this game plan with their own motives. Like they're clearly all under the same umbrella. Like, yeah, this is what we're gonna do, but definitely have different mindsets approaching it, for sure. I definitely agree there.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna kind of like set up what the one thing about the episode that kind of bothers me, but I'm not going to say why until we kind of get to later on in the review. But we, once they are able to disrupt the signal and we get essentially Justin and Pat able to finally have control of themselves again, we have like an interesting like dialogue between Yolanda and Cameron where Cameron continues to go on about how he's like, I'm going to finally take my revenge out on Solomon Grundy, once and for all. But then you've got Yolanda on the other side being like, no, you shouldn't do that. Killing is wrong. And that kind of a thing going on, which I didn't think of much at first. I just thought, okay, this is all just setting up for, I keep saying Cameron. It's Rick Tyler. Sorry, my bad. I keep thinking the actor's name is Cameron.
His actor's name, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. But yeah, we got Rick. So I'm thinking this is all just kind of supposed to be set up essentially for Rick kind of overcoming his desire for revenge. But then actually, you know what? I'll kind of just talk about it right now. What kind of bothers me about the whole thing is that then we kind of see what they're going for, which, not going to lie, I think this is a really cool idea. What to go for is the idea of, sometimes there are times where you do have to, take a life, for the greater good in order to save, the majority of people. You just got to make sure you're not doing it just straight up out of revenge. And that's kind of Yolanda's thing for that episode, is that, she ends up killing Brainwave towards the end of the episode. And, it kind of just sticks with her killing's wrong, but yet I just did it because I had to. The two things that majorly bothered me about this moment is, first of all, I'll say what I liked about it, actually, which is I like the idea of having that opposite dynamic. One person has to learn one thing, and then the other person has to kind of learn the opposite. I love character dynamics like that, and so I thought that was kind of cool. My issue is that this was never set up before. This literally kind of comes from left field. We never had any sort of lines from Yolanda being like, oh, you shouldn't, go after him for revenge. Revenge is wrong or anything like that. And, even previous episode, she was the only one of the team at the time who straight up threatened to kill someone, with Henry Jr. She straight up seemed dead serious when she's like, I'm going to kill you if you go near Courtney again. So it did feel very out of place to just throw this in there. And then on top of that, I wasn't a fan of how she was so easily able to kill Brainwave, this character who seems like the most OP character in all of Stargirl, which was just like he tries using his mind manipulation into tricking her into thinking that he's Henry, but then she, you know, figures it out and then like cuts his throat, and it's like, wait a minute, but this guy apparently is so powerful he can control minds of millions all at once, and yet he couldn't have just read her mind from the start to find out where everyone else is. Like, it did seem weird that he tried to like trick her into telling her where all her friends was instead of just like reading her mind right off the bat. Like, so I thought that wasn't like the best executed scene, essentially.
You know, and in regards to what you were saying about like the setup for Yolanda and Rick here, I see what you mean by that particular scene. Like, I almost feel like if that scene hadn't been in this episode and we had just gone on to see Yolanda kill Brainwave and then Rick make that decision at the end to spare the life, I don't necessarily know if it would be that much of an issue, because of the fact that we have seen Yolanda get dark. You know,
Mm-hmm.
she has had some really dark confrontations with people in this season. So I get the idea of her getting to that point of killing Brainwave, but it is that scene that's thrown in there with the idea of bringing up, is killing even right? Is it, you know, I almost feel like if that scene wasn't in there, because it was definitely utilized as setup for sure, and I think it was definitely utilized as setup too for season 2, but I think you could still get that setup without them having to certainly have that conversation, right? Because if that conversation doesn't happen, the idea of, oh, is it, you know, is it right to kill this person? Should I not kill this person? I think when they do it, and you kind of see their struggle, maybe it's a little bit more accepting or understanding. Because like for me, after she winds up killing Brainwave and you see her contemplating it, I definitely do think that that's going to be a major issue for her come season 2. The idea of a challenge between her being a superhero and what needs to be done, and maybe her own religious background, right? Because they even mentioned they even dropped God and things like that. So I'm assuming, if anything, there is a side of Yolanda that's a little bit on the religious side. So I can kind of see that definitely being a dilemma for her come season 2. But if they didn't have that scene in there, do you think you would have understood it a little bit? Like, not that you didn't understand it, but do you think you would have accepted it a little bit more if they hadn't had that conversation?
Maybe a little bit more if they hadn't had the conversation, or
because
if
it
that
doesn't
conversation happened in an earlier episode. I think my issue
like it was
is that
just
it
thrown
happened
in there.
Yeah, thrown in there right before. And I think that the idea of throwing it in right before just felt way too last minute. Either that, or, and I know there was already so much going on with her character, so I can kind of see why they didn't do it this way. If they had it so it was Stargirl who had to kill Brainwave, and it was in the middle of like kind of a beam struggle or something like that. You know, maybe even put it in a Man of Steel type situation where it's like, you know, you have to kill him right now, or, you know, he's going to kill like these other two people. Like, maybe have it so like Brainwave was like already trying to kill everyone with his mind, and so like Courtney had to do like the finishing blow in order to stop it. You know, just there's just like a few ways I feel like it could have just been handled better. Like, all of them just kind of amount to just, if it had been discussed anytime before
that.
Yeah, exactly. The only reason I'd say I wouldn't have been bothered as much as if it was Courtney who did it is because I feel like with Courtney as a character, they've really established early on, you know, she wants justice. She doesn't want revenge. She definitely kind of made that really clear, like from the beginning of the episode. Like, they definitely hinted that there might be a revenge type aspect to it, but for the most part, it was more about, you know, the justice aspect.
And I think there is something to that, because I think it is important. Like, you don't have to say everything, just show it, you know. Like, the idea of just putting that out there to all of a sudden now make it an issue for Rick along with Yolanda. You didn't have to necessarily have that scene in there to say it. I think the same issue certainly could have happened just from us watching it, right? I mean, seeing just the growth of these characters and seeing where being a superhero is kind of taking them. I think it still would have the same emotional impact. So yeah, you don't have to over explain everything all the time. And I think maybe that's what that particular scene was maybe one too many scenes to explain something that just visually seeing it later on would still certainly give us that same payoff and dynamic. So it wouldn't feel so out of place. But I will say this in regards to the brainwave death. I honestly didn't have a problem with the brainwave death. There is something very arrogant and cocky about this guy. Especially through all season long, and then just especially in this episode, the fact that he tells the gambler, give me 5 minutes, I'll be right back. Like, the idea of going up against these kids is just going to be just sort of no big deal. Like, just sweat off my brow, a chip off my shoulder sort of thing. I'm just going to go ahead and take care of it. I'll be right back. So when he confronts Yolanda, while I definitely do think it's an easy idea of like, just tell me where your friends are at, there is a very arrogant and cocky side to Brainwave that I think enjoys just the manipulation and playing around with people. I think especially the fact that she had that close relationship with her son. It's almost like the idea of torturing somebody and pulling off the wings of a fly really slowly just to watch them in pain. So I kind of think that that's how Brainwave went towards this particular situation, to really get under the skin of Yolanda, to see if he certainly could go ahead and get that information out of her. Because I honestly believe once he got that information, he was definitely going to go ahead and kill her. And so while I think Brainwave, yeah, for the most part, can kind of tell what your actions are going to be prior, I don't even know if Yolanda knew that those were going to be her actions. I think Yolanda was so set on the idea of, is this Henry? Is this not Henry? That her mind is just running 100 times a minute, so that when she does get the reveal and she realizes something's up, it's almost instinctual, like her first reflexes, take this guy down, to where her decision making is so quick that Brainwave is so busy trying to be arrogant and cocky that he doesn't even pick up on this notion or this thought, because it is an instinctual and just a decisive choice by Yolanda. And so I honestly don't think this man saw it coming whatsoever, because again, I'll be back in 5 minutes. Okay, if you think so, brother, and look what happened to him. So yeah, I for me, it didn't bother me so much, because I do think Yolanda thought decisively and quickly, and I don't think Brainwave was able to pick up on it. But maybe that's just me, though.
I do fully agree with that last part that you said about her acting on instinct. And yeah, of course, you can't read someone's mind if they don't of course, think through their actions. They just do it on instinct. Yeah. So I do fully agree with what you're saying there. The one thing that, yeah, I do agree with you that Brainwave is super cocky, but it also seems like he'd be the kind of cocky person that would use Yolanda, essentially, like physically control her, and while reading her mind to find them in that kind of stuff. I don't know. It seemed like more effort to like put on the show than it would have been to just read her mind and then just get it done and over with. But yeah, I definitely do agree with the whole thing about the way she acted upon, finding out that it was Brainwave. Yeah, that isn't something you think about. It's something you act on, out of pure instinct.
Yeah, and especially because she's definitely got that pent up frustration and anger from Henry, and the fact that the loss of Henry, and the fact that this guy's trying to manipulate her. Yeah, man, you're going down. Don't mess with my emotions like that.
And then, of course, we got to talk about, which, I feel like I bring this up in every single Stargirl episode ever. I freaking love the fight scenes. So we got to talk about this final battle, because one thing I was talking about with Indy earlier today was the whole thing where when Icicle first appears, and I'm expecting him to kind of ice up, but he doesn't. He's staying in his human form, and even Stargirl kind of brings it up. What? No icing? He's like, I got nothing to hide anymore, which kind of made sense. But a part of me was is that really the reason, or is it the budget? But the thing was, though, it might have been both. But I couldn't complain, though, because we still got a really cool fight scene, whether or not he was iced up or not. We got a really awesome fight scene that had some really cool looking tracking shots. Each one of the ISA members had a JSA member that they were fighting, and we got to see it through so many different angles as well. And it was just such a beautiful moment that, even though a part of me was just kind of like, why isn't he icing up yet? I didn't mind that, and then we even, we get a really cool fight between both Pat and Solomon Grundy, which, I got to say, I wasn't, even though, what was it?
I honestly don't think I was expecting a Stripe and Grundy match.
Mm.
I was definitely expecting an Our Man and Grundy match, but the Steel and Grundy definitely surprised me, and I loved it.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there. Yeah, I thought like from the beginning was just going to be like Cameron versus Solomon Grundy, and even a part of me was kind of worried because they had really been building up Solomon Grundy, and because we didn't see him in any of the trailers, a part of me was like, oh god, are we not going to get like a full on Solomon Grundy scene? Like, and I'm like, and this is on DC Universe. If we don't get it here, I doubt we're going to get it on season 2 when it moves to the CW. You know, but yeah, we did get it. And it was definitely not a letdown at all because not only do you get it with him and Our Man like they had been building up for so long, we get it with him and Stripes, which, as you brought up, we didn't even expect that. There was nothing to even hint at that, but we got it, and it was so cool because and I'm not going to try to say it was perfect because there were definitely some frame rate issues with the fights. Like there were definitely some fidgety moments, but I thought like his design looks so cool, like so very comic book accurate. I love the scale of it. And even though like it was all computer generated, I think the directors did a great job with, you know, the surrounding areas and making it feel like there is definitely a lot of weight to the fight. Definitely loved seeing, you know, the kind of detail and when Pat's suit was getting torn apart, like I
I
thought that
love that scene.
actually,
It
yeah,
looked fantastic.
yeah, because it's one thing to take the same thing and animate it to look in different and just animate it, but it's a whole nother thing when you know you have to suddenly you know get an arm ripped off and you have to reanimate all that kind of stuff. You know, and there's just like so much to it the way they did that whole scene. You know, I just thought it was overall like, you know, the action in the season finale was not a disappointment at all. I thought it was just awesome all the way through. Really had me on the edge of your really had me on the edge of my seats. Any part of the fight in the final battle, any part of it like stick out to you in particular?
Man, all of it, bro. All of it. You know, I'm gonna be honest. When I got into this episode, one of the questions that I wanted to ask myself was like, I wonder how Stewart is going to like Solomon Grundy, because I knew that even from the beginning, from the episode 1, when they kind of briefly just kind of showed him, or maybe didn't even show him. I remember you really looking forward to that moment of eventually seeing Solomon Grundy in the show. So when they showed him, I was like, yep, this is where all the budget's gone, man. Like, and which is crazy because the show has had a great budget. The special effects have been amazing, but to see them really go above and beyond when it comes to Solomon Grundy, I thought really showcases it. I mean, from a lot of the close-up shots, you know, from when he gets punched by Stripe and he's got, you know, right into the camera and things like that. You know, not all the special effects were great. You know, there were some shots, like you mentioned, that seemed a little bit fidgety or maybe looked a little bit kind of cartoony, but I feel like the money shots that they really needed to succeed, I thought they did fantastically well. And, you know, you talking about the idea of him ripping apart Stripe, one of my favorite shots in here is just that over the shoulder look from Grundy as he's looking down at Steel, and he literally rips open the cockpit and you just see Pat just sitting there looking up at this thing. I just thought just like the whole idea of how they put, you know, whether it be props and real life mixed with CGI. Like, I just thought that scene, that shot was just breathtaking to watch, to be quite honest with you. So that definitely stands out to me. But yeah, when it comes to the JSA versus ISA, you know, they've been blowing us away all season long with great fight sequences, but they literally just up the ante in here. A ton of movement, some amazing kinetic energy in here. You know, you talked about just the tracking shots. I love just those long, unedited tracking shots where you get to see everybody doing something. It has very much like that Avengers sort of vibe to it, you know? Like sometimes when you get those big money shots in the movies where you get the opportunity to see everybody in the crew doing their own thing, that's exactly what it reminds me of. I know Arrow's probably done a little bit of that too, but mix that in with just the amazing wire work and some of the athleticism from these stunt doubles and the actors. I mean, damn, this thing just blew. I literally lost my shit watching this thing. I was just so into it 100%. You know, one thing that really surprised me that I loved was the appearance of Cindy as Shiv, where she kind of comes out of nowhere, which I think it's the Dragon King and the Shining Knight are fighting, and I think they accidentally unlock her door, and just the amazing shot of just her hand grabbing the door and opening it, I thought it was great. And then of course the surprise shanking of her father. I you know, for me, considering the fact of how much I hated Cindy, like I wasn't the biggest fan of Cindy at the beginning. I wasn't the biggest fan of Henry at the beginning. I think the show has done a great job of just pacing and the character growth and development that makes me, by the end of this season, like I really love Cindy as a villain. I think she's so downright damn mean and evil. I think she's perfect. But honestly, when it comes to this battle, amazing, absolutely amazing. This is the type of battle that you want to see in sort of a season finale of the show, and it didn't disappoint. It did not disappoint at all.
Mm-hmm. Fully agree there. And then got to talk about, of course, what I'll talk about the build up first, but I got to talk about, probably my favorite line in the entire episode, because, after the fight is lost, and then, you get Icicle just kind of like, what, screw it, out of desperation, I'm just going to go after Barbara and try to, like, one last attempt to really show her, my way of thinking. And, he's like trying so hard, to justify like his actions to her, like trying, cause it's like at this point he has no one left on his team now. So it's like he has no one to really share his belief with, that he thinks that, or that are going to share those beliefs like back to him, essentially. So he's thinking like his only hope is, maybe I can, in one last desperate attempt, I can like convince Barbara or something, and he's like, trying to force all this justification, like being like, oh, what was the statistic that he brought up? Like 500,000?
Like if I killed like 500,000 people in order to cure cancer, what would you pick, or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. And he's just like, trying so hard to like justify all his actions in his head, but of course you just got Barbara just kind of being like, you're just insane, essentially, which is true. That's what he is. He's just insane. And then we get the best cheesy line in the entire show. It's so cheesy and campy, but I loved it. And it was the line that stuck out to me the most, which is when, Courtney and him are duking it out, like on the clock tower. And like, he and she's just like, you're filled with too much hate to change America, to change America for the greater. I can't remember exactly how she worded it, but you can't make
to change America or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're filled with too much hate. I'm like, oh, that was so cheesy, but also so beautiful at the same time.
Dude, I hated that line, man. I can't lie, Stuart. It was too cheesy for me, man.
It was cheesy, but I loved it.
Hey, man, cheese works for everybody differently, bro. I'm glad that you liked it, but I heard it and I'm like, oh god. But no, I get you there. Can I tell you what my favorite line was?
Yes, definitely.
It's my turn, from Rick, bro. And he from Rick was it's so funny because I've been picking on Rick all season long. I'm like, he doesn't want this smoke with Solomon Grundy. He does not know what he's getting himself into. Mm-hmm. And Rick all season long, that's all he's wanted to do, man. And he finally got his opportunity. And I love the sucker punch to go ahead and save Pat. And he's like, it's my turn. And I'm just like, he about to beat that ass. Mm-hmm. And he did. He was like, I've got 5 minutes left and it's all for you, dude. I love some of his lines in here, and just seeing him just pummel Solomon Grundy to a pulp, man. And then again, even another fantastic line from him after he winds up, giving mercy to Solomon Grundy and he heads out. I love that Shining Knight comes by and it's just like, oh my goodness, you gave him mercy. And he's like, well, my time was up. All right. So it's like, he's like, I had no choice. He was like, yeah, he's definitely not going to do anything after his time. Poor Solomon Grundy would have squashed him. So definitely a great play by Rick here in this episode. And he brought it, man. He had a ton of pent up anger and frustration. But again, it goes back to just that character growth, right? The idea of, yes, he did go ahead and beat Solomon into just a pulp and get all that anger and resentment out, but still understanding the idea that, yeah, I shouldn't kill this dude, and winds up letting him go. But great character growth for somebody that held on to so much anger all season long. I thought it was a really, really good story for Rick here.
Mm-hmm. And I love how it was like it was the moment of Solomon Grundy just like kind of giving up that really kind of changed his perspective of the thing. Cause I think he's like looking at this thing like it's just a beast that has nothing on its mind except for blood. Like it's just out there to kill. So the moment you see like kind of the beast just like, giving up and just kind of like, in one last kind of desperate attempt, giving the puppy dog eyes, essentially. I love how it was that kind of like had him, fully turn around. And I love how like he's too stubborn to admit that he just didn't, he just didn't have it in him to take a life. He's just like, my time ran out,
Yeah.
And yeah, we knew it was going to run out, but we knew because of the rock that he was lifting with like no effort at all. We're like, yeah, we know that you had a little bit of time left.
Yeah, for real. But going back to Icicle, just that confrontation, it is interesting to just see Icicle here because we're so used to Icicle having just that cool demeanor about him, right? Not really emotionally getting sort of escalated and things like that. That's kind of how we've just seen him just sort of all season long. He's got a plan. He's a cool character, evil as can be, but the way that he presents himself. So it is fascinating to me that now that his plans have gone to hell, that cool demeanor is completely gone, and he's just a hothead at this point, just literally going to that peak of like, I don't want to say cliche villain in a sense, but he definitely goes down that hot-headed route for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. We see him for the man he really is when he's lost everything, essentially.
Absolutely, man. But yeah, I'm glad you like that cheesy line though, Stewart.
Like I said, I'm not denying how campy and cheesy it was. I just like, oh my God, that's so dumb, but I love it.
Is it bad? And let me throw this out here too. Is it bad? Like, for me, that was a cheesy line. But like for me, when I watch like the very ending of this and you see like Steel and Stargirl and they're chilling on top of the water tower with the American flag and stuff, that kind of stuff is cringy to me, man. Like, and I say cringy just not because, I'm not trying to say I'm unpatriotic, but sometimes I just feel like that kind of stuff is just thrown into your face. Like I don't even think it's a scene that was needed, but I felt like they always have to drop in that hero next to the American flag because they are America's superhero. Like that kind of stuff, it just feels forced and cringy to me at times. But I don't know. Maybe that's just me though. Like I wish it was presented a little bit better. It feels forced than more or less just just a natural setting.
I think if it was a different superhero show, I could totally see where you're coming from. But because literally the dynamic is stars and stripes, I'm like, I get it. I totally get it. Now, if this is how, like for example, if they ended Arrow season 1 this way, or Daredevil season 1 this way, I would have been like, what the hell? But I feel like for this type of show, especially because like the whole thing was, the villains doing what they think was right for the country itself and all that kind of thing. I think it really did actually fit in really well with the type of show that this was.
And we are in Blue Valley. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's not as American apple pie, as it can get. So, you do make a good point there also. But I guess for me, it was just the fact that I was watching this episode and I felt like the ending just kept getting elongated and elongated and elongated with some of the wrap ups and stuff. That for me, it just felt a little bit forced. But you make an absolutely perfect point there. That probably is a perfect example as to why they put it in there. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, but I do kind of agree. I would kind of agree with you, like with the sense of like when they did it in in Spider-Man 1, it definitely was like perfect for Spider-Man 1. But then they do it again in Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3, even though Spider-Man doesn't like represent that kind of a thing, and so it was just kind of it felt really weird in those movies. But I think it worked, really good in this again, just because Stars and Stripes is literally like kind of the superheroes.
Yeah, that's even the title of the past 2 episodes, so you're absolutely right there. You're absolutely right.
But I do want to say that I do fully see what you mean by that. But yeah, we gotta like you said, we gotta talk about these Lord of the Ring endings right here because I'll say this, man. Even though like that beginning part got me kind of emotional, like when she's like, when she says it's your daughter, I'm like, oh, that's so sweet. The moment where I probably shed a tear, I might be, I maybe didn't, but I definitely came close at the very least, was the moment she gave Pat that present that was meant for her dad when she was 4 years old, like in the very first episode. And she gives it to him when we finally get to see what that present was. And it was a mug saying world's greatest dad. And oh my gosh, that is where the heartstrings were pulled right there. That moment when he looks at it, and just says, it's perfect. I'm like, oh God, that was just such a beautiful moment between the two of them.
No, I agree, man. I literally did shed a tear. Like I'm pretty sure I was crying a little bit, man. I mean, it was definitely a beautiful moment. Again, the build up. I mean, when she hands him the box, I'm thinking, well, first off, I was thinking to myself 6 weeks later, like, man, we're really making the jump, trying to get in that good Christmas feeling. You know what I mean? When the whole
Mhm.
family's together, you definitely got to take advantage of that moment if you can. So when she gives him the present, I'm like, is that the same present that she's been carrying around this whole entire time with her? And then you realize that it is, and he gives it to her. I'm just like, you got to be kidding me, man. I can't believe they're just going to continue to tug at my heartstrings like this. Like, this is the second time in this episode that we've had a fantastic moment between Pat and Courtney. Big props to Breck Basinger and of course Luke Wilson for just being the best stepdad in the world. Like, who wouldn't want a stepdad like Luke Wilson, man? But I think it's just the beautiful storytelling from these two characters all season long to get them to this point. The character growth, the understanding of each other, those really difficult and scary moments that they've had to kind of overcome and stuff, and just to kind of see their journey and what they've been through, as beautiful of a moment as you can possibly think of, right? Not just the fact that I'm your daughter, but I look at you as my dad, and not just a stepdad, but as my dad. He's earned that right. He showcased that he's willing to do anything for her and her family. Just a really beautiful and just absolutely touching moment. So big up to Jeff Jones, man, for just doing an excellent job in writing, especially their story arc. But yeah, it definitely brought me to tears. I can't even lie. They I was holding it back with the daughter stuff, but man, that extra line just brought the waterworks, man, for real.
That was such an awesome moment.
Yeah, it was a great moment.
And then, of course, we got a couple of setups here, because one of them is that we do see that not only is the gambler still around, and I had the guy's name written down somewhere, but I don't have Shade. Yeah, that was his name, Shade. We see that he's back, and judging by his one-off lying, saying that he's like, I told you that this was fully, like, we can only assume that he definitely was not all for Project New America, which means he probably joined the Injustice Society for his own very different ideology, which means we might be looking forward to seeing a very different type of villain dynamic next season. Like, we might have a villain who's just evil just for the sake of being evil. And then, you'll still have the gambler who, like I said, kind of in this episode, to me, kind of came off as he was never really even down with Project New America. He just wanted the profit that would come from it. So I'm wondering if, like, season 2 is that, if that's what we'll kind of see getting set up. And if we're also, if Shiv continues to, obviously she's going to be around in the next season, but if she is she going to do her own thing, or is she going to still, be a part of the ISA along with the two of them?
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting if how different the ISA looks next season, or if we're ever going to get a full team of the ISA. Because you're right, the Gambler's still around. We have to remember Tigress is still out there, Sportsmaster and things like that. While they were definitely knocked unconscious, I got to assume that they probably survived this ordeal. So yeah, and now we've got the Shade. So it'll be interesting to see if it's something that the ISA runs away and licks their wounds, and maybe just a couple of them have plans for Stargirl and the JSA, and then maybe season 3 we get a full team back, because it's not just a Shade that they're introducing next season. They also did introduce a second villain also that I'm not familiar being a part of the ISA. So maybe they have, maybe there's 2 sets of plans that's going to be happening here, the ISA stuff and Cindy's plans.
Yeah, which is very possible, especially what's really interesting is now I don't really know a lot about this villain myself, but I do know that the gem that this villain is trapped in comes from the planet Apocalypse in the comic books. So it would be kind of interesting. It'll be interesting to see how much more like DC lore they continue to throw into Stargirl, because it already surprised me alone in this season that we not only had the Justice Society, but we also were introduced to the Seven Soldiers, which also helped us get backstory on the Shining Knight, which is something I definitely wasn't expecting to see in Stargirl. So I'm very curious to see if they continue like that amazing world building that they've been doing so far, if they continue that throughout the next few seasons as well.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that, because even Pat says he wants to meet some of the seven soldiers and things like that also. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do get ourselves a reunion. Maybe it's not everybody. Maybe it's some people. Wouldn't that be funny if Stephen Amell came back as Arrow? But no, I
That
don't
would
think
be
we're gonna.
great. It
That would
probably
be.
won't happen, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't complain if it did. That'd be
Yeah, I think if anything, we'll probably get ourselves just two different iterations, or at least a new iteration of the Green Arrow character. That's one character I would love to see pop up in this show as an Earth 2 version, honestly. But yeah, I definitely expect to see the seven soldiers next season. But talking a little bit about the gem that Cindy wind up finding, she does go ahead and name drop him in here in regards to Eclipso. Now I myself am not too familiar with the character. I did go ahead and bring up a couple of photos here for people to go ahead and check out what Eclipso actually looks like from the comic books. But if you look him up under Wikipedia, it does say the character is an incarnation of the wrath of God and an angel of vengeance that turned evil and was replaced by the Spectre. It says he was originally written as a generic villain with average superpowers. It does say that, however, in 1992, a miniseries modified the character to be an evil megalomaniac entity. Eclipso's character laments the power he once had as a spirit of divine vengeance. So yeah, but he has a couple different aliases also. But I'll be interested to see what he's certainly capable of, man. I absolutely love his design. Honestly, I've always loved his color scheme, to be quite honest with you. But he is a character that I'm not super familiar with, but I have seen him sort of pop up. I guess you can say like B level villain, if you will, from time to time. But it definitely looks as though he's gonna have big role to play when it comes to season 2 of Stargirl. So I'm looking forward to see just what Eclipso can do and what Cindy's gonna do with him, because she's nuts, man.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, definitely. Honestly, probably she's not going to be able to control this person, but she's going to have like the idea in her head, oh, I can definitely control him, I'll free him and he'll owe me or something, and it's going to bite her in the butt or probably something like that.
Oh yeah, probably knowing her. He'd probably get tired of her. I get tired of her too, so.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then there was a mid-credit scene, which I did not expect at all. And I not only did I not expect a mid-credit scene, I didn't expect what we got out of it at all, which is we get a reveal that Starman might actually be alive, and he is currently looking for Pat Dugan. Now, the reason I say might, I feel like they are, knowing the way that television is written a lot of times, I feel like they're really trying to throw us off guard. So like when season 2 comes, it's going to be some big reveal that it's a shapeshifter or maybe some evil twin brother or something. I don't know. It's a comic book show, so literally a million different things could be it. But I don't know about you. I personally am not expecting it to actually be the Starman. Something about the way he was going about trying to look for Pat Dugan seems like he might have some evil intentions behind him. But what do you think?
I never even considered it. I just saw what's the actor's name again? Joel McHale. I just literally saw Joel McHale. I'm like, hey, it's Starman. And I literally didn't even get that far to even think about it. But you might be right. I mean, last time we saw him, he did die in Pat's arms on the battlefield. So who knows? I mean, yeah, it is television these days, right? I mean, they tried to swerve us with the whole Starman's my father. I felt like we kind of sniffed that out a long time ago. Like, nah, they want us to think that, but that's not the case. Mm-hmm. So maybe this is something else. You might be right. Maybe a shapeshifter. I mean, who knows? The JSA certainly has some friends. Maybe he was brought back to life or something like that after the case. I want to hope that Joel McHale turns out to be Starman, just from his personality is Joel McHale in general. Like, I would love to just see that lighter side of the character portrayed, but who knows, man? That's a good question. I didn't even think about that, but he could be evil or something fishy could be going on here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, overall, man, I thought not only was this an amazing. Oh, sorry. Was there anything else that you wanted to bring up about the season before or the episode?
Mike. We didn't talk about Mike.
Right. I can't believe I forgot about this.
Yeah, I was just looking at my notes. I'm like, wait a minute. I don't think we talked about him. Yeah, Mike. So first off, I love just the splat that Icicle makes when he hits the ground. The fact that you just hear like parts of him shatter as he hits the ground. And so when he gets back up and you see like half his face as eyes, I think that's definitely his powers trying to repair the damage because homeboy has lost half his head here. But the surprise of having Mike come in and bulldoze this guy with their truck, I thought was brilliant, man. I mean, I can see maybe it rubs some people the wrong way. I'm not quite sure. Like, I never want to celebrate, hey, I killed a supervillain. You know, like I never want to celebrate the idea that I killed somebody. But just considering Mike's storyline all season long, I really felt that this kid needed a win for sure. And I thought the moment kind of shocked me because I honestly thought the end of this battle was Icicle hitting the ground. So the fact that I get this extra payoff of somebody coming through, hitting him with a truck sort of thing, and it'd be Mike of all people, and he's like, does this mean I'm a part of the JSA? I was like, yes, Mike, you are an honorary member of the JSA. But I thought it was a really great moment for him. And honestly, for me, it was a super satisfying ending just because I just seeing what all these characters, especially villain-wise, Brainwave, Icicle, and how they've, you know, what they've really done. For me, I thought it was a great payoff for not only the battle, but for Mike also. But what did you think? How did you take that that ending?
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Like, I remember, I think Indy was saying he wasn't like the biggest fan of that. Personally, I thought it was great because it finally gave, you know, Mike something to really make him feel like he was relevant to the entire show. So I loved that at the very end. And it also kind of explained away like something I brought up earlier. This is actually why I'm really glad you brought up the mic thing at the end. Is I'm like during the final battle when I was wondering why you know, Icicle wasn't, you know, in his ice form or anything like that. One thing I kind of like thought I could use as my headcanon for the reason why he didn't do that is because you look at how he gets hit by the truck, and you know, I'm not trying to say that that, you know, it wasn't like that bad or anything. But we literally just saw him a moment ago survive falling from a huge building. So it is kind of weird that the truck was kind of the finishing move. So what I kind of assume it is I'm wondering if being in his ice form actually makes him vulnerable as ice, essentially. And that's what made him shatter. And that's why he didn't do his ice form. You know, you don't want to exactly be as weak as ice when you're going up against a giant robot or anything like that.
Yeah, one punch from Stripe, right? And then you completely shatter. So you make a good point there. I didn't even contemplate that, but I think that's probably why he doesn't do that. I mean, he's still very much formidable. I mean, the guy's facing off against Stargirl and Stripe by himself in the dungeon earlier on. And yeah, you can really tell that he turns into his ice form last minute to kind of survive that fall. But I think you're definitely onto something there, Stuart, in regards to it. And who's to say that he's gone? If he's ice, maybe homeboy melts and comes back together and can form himself. I refreeze himself. I have no idea. But
like Terminator, like the liquid metal Terminator.
yeah. Or it's a situation like from Rush Hour when the guy falls off the building and Chris Tucker's like, he's not coming back for the sequel. That's the exact moment that I had when he got hit by that truck. But I thought it was brilliant, honestly. And you know, somebody on Twitter said that it was almost a satisfying ending because of the fact that when you think about who Icicle killed, Joey Zarek or whatever the kid's name is, that guy, that kid also got hit by a truck because of what Icicle did on the bridge that day. So I thought it was pretty cool that somebody connected those dots, that it was pretty much a pretty faithful end for Icicle here, that it certainly made sense that way.
That's actually a really good point. I didn't think of. Yeah, he kills a kid in the very beginning of the show.
Ices up the road, and the kid
who gets hit by a truck, and it was a kid with a truck that ends up being the one to do the final blow. That's brilliant.
Dude. That was brilliant. I was like, that's a great way to go ahead and wrap it all up, though, man. Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, definitely glad you brought that last bit up. But man, yeah. So overall, what would you say you'd rate this season finale overall?
See, I mean,
I guess.
Well, for the season in general, I think I'm gonna go with like an A-. I probably will do the same thing for this episode in general, A-. I really enjoyed it. I didn't have too many squabbles with it. Honestly, I mean, the idea of, you know, the only three things that I really talked about that I wasn't a fan of, Gambler's decision to not protect his own money felt weird to me. What else? I said the ending dragged out maybe a little bit too long for me, and then maybe some of the the Icicle kind of changing personalities a little bit because he's just had this cool demeanor. But based off of just how everything went to crap for him, it's understandable that he would kind of lose his head a little bit. So there really wasn't too much that I had issues with in here. I thought a lot of the great stuff really made up for it, honestly. Like even the one scene in the beginning where Icicle's walking down the street and everybody's frozen and he's trying to explain to this little girl how he's going to make everybody better. Like the little girl saying like, but my dad's already good. Like I'm like, great line, great delivery. So there really was very little. So if anything, I'm going to go A- with this episode and then also just with the season in general. So probably like low 90s.
I'm gonna have to go with. I agree with you. I'll definitely give the episode itself an A-, but I think with the season as a whole, I got to give it a solid A.
Nice, man. I like it. There are a couple comments here. Do you want to go through some comments real quick? I don't know who joined us, though. Let me see.
Definitely. Let's first give some shout outs to the people who have made it. So we got Alec in the house. We got Brahman in the house. I love that. I love that name. We also got Ramon in the house as well. And then of course,
what's up, Ramon? I don't feel like I've seen Ramon in here before either. But hey, thanks for joining us over from Twitch, man. Appreciate it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Thank you. And then of course we got AJ in the house as well. Hey guys, saw you guys are online while I'm checking my notifications. I'm waiting for season 1 to be online somewhere. Need to catch up. Saw the Big Bad and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Goodbye panel. He was a guest star this season 7.
He was mentioning he was talking to me offline. That Brainwave, the actor Brainwave was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Goodbye panel, I think, that he was guest starring in this season. I'll have to ask Indy if he winds up seeing him in that episode also. I do want to ask you a question, Stuart. Where do you think Stargirl is going to land now that the season is over? Because AJ was saying, he was hoping that maybe it would pop up on Netflix because of the other CW shows are on there. But considering the fact that this is a DC Universe streaming show, do you think there's any possibility of this season being thrown onto Netflix, or that do you think maybe when DC Universe shuts down, or maybe sometime later, do you think this might go to HBO Max or what though?
HBO Max, if anything, but it probably won't be for a little while. I think they want to try to keep it on both DC Universe and CW. You can actually watch all of season 1 on the CW website as well.
Oh, you can? Okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So it's technically on 2 different websites in case you're still interested. But the Netflix is, the Arrowverse shows are all starting to end their contracts with Netflix. But there's a few that are, of course, going to are in contract for, I think, like until the series ends. So like you'll still get the new seasons of Supergirl, Flash, and all those other shows on Netflix. But any new CW Arrowverse shows are going to be going to HBO Max. So Stargirl more than likely will be one of those shows.
Yeah, Batwoman's already over there too on HBO Max.
And then Superman and Lois won't be on Netflix either. That'll also be on HBO Max.
Let me see. I did jump down a little bit here. AJ does ask, do you think Courtney will get a new suit just like Kara did in Supergirl?
Personally, if it's a good suit, I won't mind it, but I'm not really in a hurry for a new suit. I kind of like the one that she has on. I think it looks freaking awesome.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. So yeah, no, if anything, I think she'll probably keep this new costume.
It's actually kind of funny, Alec bringing up. I don't see why Barry has multiple suits already, which, I mean, I kind of think like with that show, it definitely feels like those suits are constantly getting better. Personally, I think like after season 3, was it season 4? That was the suit that they should have just stuck with. But then they kind of like kept switching it. Like season 5 suit, I thought looked really weird. And then now they got a good suit again with season 6. So I don't know. I think they've gone through enough new suits. They should probably just stick to one thing. And instead of spending so much money on making more suits for Barry, use that money for other things.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I know he's gotten some multiple suits, but I'm perfectly okay with her having this one. I feel like that's the only comment that's really Stargirl related, man.
Yeah. So it's just kind of some back and forths about other different. Oh, here we go. This is actually kind of funny. I showed my younger cousin Stargirl, and he said why she looks like Captain America. Yeah,
She
I've
represents
heard that.
America.
Yeah, I've definitely heard that a few times. But yeah, it's just because when Starman was out, kind of came out around the same time as Captain America. So I think he did. I could be wrong about that, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. We'll have to do some JSA history lessons here. Figure out how long they've been around for, when they were created. But yeah, even Starman had that same design. Stargirl also. Hey man, you know what? Hey, whatever helps DC also, right? We don't have a Captain America anymore when it comes to Marvel Cinematic Universe. So let's get some type of patriotic person on TV. So maybe DC's taking full advantage of that. But yeah, it's just who the character is though.
Oh, but we're gonna have a Captain America soon because Falcon's gonna become Captain America.
Yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
looking forward
technically he
to it.
already is, but I feel like not to get off topic. I feel like that'll be his like arc in Falcon and the Winter Soldier is fully accepting the mantle of Captain America.
Yeah, more than likely. And just to go back to AJ's last question, dear HBO Max, I hate you. I love my HBO Max, man. So
Mhm.
get on it, man. Get on it. They got a ton of great content on there.
Yeah, I would highly recommend it. In fact, if you have a Hulu, I'd say at this point, a lot of stuff that was on Hulu is going to HBO Max anyways. So maybe just do a little bit of a trade.
Oh yeah, good point. I mean, because you'll get Doom Patrol on there. You currently have the full season of Batwoman. Again, would not be surprised if eventually Stargirl definitely made her appearance there at some point in time. Also,
Yeah, and then plus once the exclusive contract for all those shows on Netflix ends, I'm pretty sure they're all going to be moving to HBO
oh,
Max as well.
yeah,
Soon
you're
you'll
probably
have the entire Arrowverse library.
right.
But yeah,
Definitely.
cool. So I think that'll wrap this review up then.
Awesome, awesome. Well, hey guys, thank you very much for certainly having me. I appreciate you having me onto your review, Stuart. I think as far as like other reviews that are coming for fall, I know we're probably going to do reviews for Swamp Thing. I think Indy might be doing reviews for Swamp Thing. I'll talk with him a little bit more about that. If anything, we'll see if I can jump on there, similar to what we did here for Stargirl, Stuart, kind of beginning, middle, and end. But we'll see what happens. But listen, I love this season, man. Thank you very much for doing the show, doing the reviews. Thanks for having me on board. Stellar season. If you haven't had the opportunity to watch it, guys, do yourselves a favor. Check out Stargirl.
Definitely. All right, so I think that'll wrap this up then. So thank you guys so much for catching this review. Definitely make sure to like our Facebook page. Definitely like this video and subscribe to our channel, which we're hoping to get up and running sometime in the future, hopefully. But we'll definitely keep you all posted there. But overall, guys, just remember, keep it A+.